The Boer Wars. This is a story of the Boers and the British from Story of the World, Chapter 12, B, Section B. Once upon a time, long, long ago, the Dutch from the Netherlands, which is the country right there, sailed through the Atlantic Ocean to the southern tip of Africa and built trading posts. This is a picture of the southern tip of Africa. Here is just the picture blown up really big. And this is where the Dutch came and they set up trading posts. I'm going to draw a TP to represent trading posts all throughout this area. This is a flag of the Netherlands, and we call the people that live in the Netherlands the Dutch. They were very happy living there. They called themselves Boers, which in Dutch means farmer. So what do you think that they did in the land there? You're right, they were farmers. So they were called Boers. They lived there, they were very happy. But one day, their happiness ended because the British came from England and they decided that they were going to take over the area. So all the Boers, which I'm going to draw with letter B's, all the Boers who lived there had to do what the British said. Now, all the Boers believe, most of the Boers believed that slavery was okay. So a lot of the Boers had slaves that worked for them. So this little S is going to represent slaves, and I'm making them small because they are having to obey the Boers. Well, the British came in and they said, you can't have slaves anymore. You have to free your slaves and let them have their own property. Well, this made the Boers unhappy, and so they decided that they were going to leave this land called Cape Town. Which, sounds pretty reasonable. So they left the land and they moved north into these two areas. This land right here is called Free State. And on some maps you will see it's called Orange Free State. And then this area is called Transvaal with two A's at the end, Transvaal. And this is where the Boers went to live. Now when they got there, they decided they wanted to be called Afrikaners with a K, not a C, instead of Boers. And the reason for that is because they were from Europe, but they lived there for so long that they were Africans. So they were Africans of European descent. So up here we've got, I'm going to put little A's for Afrikaners. Remember, the Afrikaners were the Boers. And they all lived up here. And then we've got the British down here. BR is for British. Controlling Cape Town down here. So we've got Orange Free State, we've got Transvaal. And they're living there peacefully. This is a picture of some of the Afrikaners in one of their homes. You see they have a lot of children. They were mostly farmers. Well, one day, one of the Afrikaners, let's say just for fun that it's this little guy, was out exploring along the river. And he found something pretty amazing along the Orange River, which is a river that runs through here. Let me see if I can change my pen color make that a little more obvious. I'm going to make it blue. Alright, so, well, doesn't look like looks like it's still black. Oh well. So this is called the Orange River. And he was playing along there and he found something pretty amazing. He found a diamond. Now this is an uncut diamond. This is what it looks like before they cut it and make it all shiny and beautiful. Here is a picture. Here's the river. This is where he found it. This is the Orange River. It's probably where they got the name Orange Free State. Okay. Now, prospectors and miners came from all over South Africa to the area because they thought, well, he found one diamond, there's probably going to be a lot more diamonds to find. So they dug a huge diamond mine called the Big Hole. And I'm going to show you pictures of it. This is what it looked like when it was dug. And you can see from the sign, this is called the Kimberley Mine. It was discovered the 16th of July in 1871. It's produced this many carats of diamonds, 14,504,566 carats of diamonds. And they stopped working in the mine in 1914. And so it went from looking like this to looking like this. So now if you go to South Africa and you want to go visit the Kimberley Mine, there's a museum there and you can swim. People swim in the water. If you go to YouTube and look up Kimberley Mine or the Big Hole, you'll see some video people have shot of them jumping in. I don't think they dive from way up there, but because that's 215 meters, that's a lot. But yeah, so I'll just draw a little guy in there. Yay, I'm having fun swimming. Okay, so they've let it fill in with water, but isn't that cool that the water's so green? That's pretty awesome. So we've got the diamonds right there. We've got people starting to move into the Afrikaners' land, and not too long after that, in the Transvaal, gold was discovered. The British Empire decided that the land where the diamonds were found was going to be British land because since it was right on the border, neither the Transvaal or the Orange Free State could claim it. So of course the British claimed it. And they said, this is ours. Now, the Boer and the Afrikaner governments in the Transvaal and the Orange Free State realized they didn't have enough money to build mines to get the gold out of the ground here. So they came up with a plan and they made a deal with the British. And they said, if you mine it, and you can come in and mine it as long as you give us a portion of it, give us a piece of it. So let me just show you. This is before I jump into that. Here's gold. This is where they found the gold in the Transvaal. And this is a gold mine. Picture of a gold mine from a long time ago. So they made a deal with the British, the Afrikaners, remember they're the Boers, and the British, and they said, sure, you can take our gold as long as you give us a part of it. So for 4 years after the British and the Boers, the Afrikaners make the deal with the British. The British governor of Cape Colony, which was when the British came in and took over and the Boers left to go to make their own settlements north in Africa, the British government renamed the whole area Cape Colony, and the governor of Cape Colony was named Cecil Rhodes. And this is a picture of Cecil Rhodes. And Cecil Rhodes started a settlement called Rhodesia, which is right here. So now you can look, you see, there's the Orange Free State, there's the Transvaal, and here's a British colony, here's a British colony, here's a British colony. How do you think the Afrikaners are feeling now they're starting to get surrounded by the British? Probably getting a little bit nervous about that. Rhodes, Cecil Rhodes, gives the British officials permission to invade the Transvaal. So that's not a good thing. So he gives all of his officials permission to do that. Now, this is a little video that Thomas Edison actually filmed of a battle during when they, this was the beginning when the British invaded the Transvaal. This was the beginning of the Boer War. Because the British were planning to take over, the Afrikaners in both the Free State and the Transvaal declared war on Great Britain in 1899. This war was called the Boer War. 2 days after war was declared, Afrikaner soldiers surrounded Mafeking. And I'm sorry I can't show you this video. I'll show it to you in class. Here's Mafeking. I'm sorry my maps are really blurry. But here's the Transvaal, here's the Orange Free State, here's Cape Colony where the British are, and here's Mafeking. Mafeking was a railroad, a town with a railroad running through it, and the Afrikaner army put it under siege, which means they surrounded the city. There were British soldiers inside of the city. They surrounded it, and they wouldn't allow food to come in or out. They were eventually getting really hungry inside there. The British soldiers in Mafeking, they built fake forts so that the Afrikaners would shoot at the fake forts instead of the people, and they made noise all night so the Afrikaner soldiers couldn't rest. Young boys were recruited to act as messengers and helpers and were called Boy Scouts. And this is a picture showing how the Boy Scouts, the idea for Boy Scouts started. They were, see, these young guys would sign up and they would act as messengers. Both sides, the British and the Afrikaners, did agree on a ceasefire on Sundays so soldiers could rest, cook food, and play games. No food was getting into Mafeking, so the people in the town had to eat their horses, which is very sad, and that was called brawn. Well, the Afrikaner army was a lot guerrilla forces, which means that they were fighting from hiding rather than any kind of organized format. And a lot of the Afrikaner people would feed them and provide food and clothes for them. And the British didn't like it, and so if they found out that a family was taking care of them, they would come to the house and they would burn it, and then they would take the family and put them in a concentration camp. And this is a picture of one of the concentration camps that was there. Mafeking was finally freed after 7 months of being besieged. The British reinforcements drove away the Afrikaners and set Mafeking free. As the Afrikaners began to weaken, the British started to take control of cities in the Transvaal and the Free State. So the British start taking over more and more. British and the British government sets up concentration camps where many people died. They say 20,000 white Afrikaners died and 14,000 black Africans died as well. And this is a picture of some of the graves of the people that died. They were horribly treated in the concentration camps. There's a lot of disease, and the people were very hungry, and the images online were too sad and gruesome to put into the slideshow, but the people were starving. It was very sad. In 1902, the Peace of Vereeniging was signed by the British and the Afrikaners. And here's the British, here's the Afrikaners, number K. And that peace treaty, which was signed May 31st, 1902, ended the Boer War. And what it did was, and these are all the signatures. Sorry, I can't print my circles very well. What it did was it united all of this area into one united country. So now the Transvaal and the Orange Free State, there's Mafeking, are all part of one nation called South Africa. It started off down here in Cape Town, grew to the Orange Free State, grew to the Transvaal, and now it's one big country called the Union of South Africa. And there's their flag. But you remember there are three groups of people still living there. There's the black Africans who were there to start with, the natives. There are the white Afrikaners, who were the Dutch Boers who came from the Netherlands to settle there and changed their name to Afrikaners. And then they're the British people who came to settle there also. There were also French people who lived there, German people who lived there, but these are your main three living all in one area. Now the question is are they going to be able to live together peacefully? And as history proceeds, we will find out.
Does somebody cut up all this chicken?